Have you ever heard chilling cries from the depths of the Reach at night? They say the people of this land are savages, ruthless rebels using terror to reclaim their land. But is there more to their story? Are these murderous marauders really the villains history has made them out to be? Or are they a noble and valiant band of downtrodden warriors, fighting to reclaim their homeland? Are you brave enough to venture into this land of Daedra-worshipping murderers? Then welcome aboard this lore tour of the Forsworn. I'll be your captain today for this trip to the chilly land of Skyrim. Please keep your seatbelts fastened at all times, just in case we run into any dragons on our flight path today. And as a gentle reminder, the smuggling of skooma is strictly prohibited by interdimensional law, so don't go accepting any packages from a Khajiit, no matter how adorable they are. With that out of the way, let's fly on down and begin our tour of the Forsworn. This is the rugged and unforgiving land of the Reach, nestled in the shadow of the towering Druidak mountain range. It is a harsh, mountainous region located at a strategic crossroads between the lands of Skyrim, High Rock, and Hammerfell, which has led to a unique convergence of lands and people, resulting in interbreeding among various races of both man and mer. This blending of cultures and bloodlines has given rise to new races, including the Bretons and their lesser-known cousins, the Reachmen. Originating in the westernmost region of the Reach in the province of High Rock, the Reach folk would later emigrate to what is now Skyrim and settle the entirety of the region known as the Reach. And if you take a look below us, you'll see where many of them finally settled, the grand Dwemer city of stone, Markarth. Let's head down and take a closer look. For thousands of years, tribes of the Reachmen lived in this land, experiencing both times of freedom and periods of hardship. During their free years, the various clans of the Reach roamed their homeland freely. However, they also endured the rule of various foreign empires, such as the Septim Empire. At the peak of the Great War between this empire and the Aldmeri Dominion, a Reachman warrior known as Madanak saw an opportunity. With the Imperial garrison sent to the front lines, Madanak rose up in rebellion, reclaiming the Reach for his people. He sought to halt the growing influence of the Nord landowners who had claimed their land, and also rejuvenate the old ways of the Reach folk. This uprising led to the formation of the Forsworn Kingdom, with Madanak as king of the Reachmen tribes, ruling from Markarth. And by all accounts, this kingdom was a fair and just society. Although there were some violent reprisals against the former Nord landlords, these were primarily directed at those who had been particularly cruel to the Reach folk. The fledgling nation even began diplomacy with the Empire, seeking recognition as an independent state for the Forsworn. However, this newfound freedom was short-lived. Just 2 years into its history, the Forsworn Kingdom was rocked by an event known as the Markarth Incident. The ousted Nordic Jarl of Whiterun sought the help of a militia led by Ulfric Stormcloak, tasking them to besiege the gates of Markarth and rid the city of Reachmen. Those who survived this siege were forced to flee to the hills, once again becoming outlaws in their own land. The broken and leaderless Forsworn Kingdom fractured into a series of smaller, scattered clans. These clans made new homes in abandoned forts, mountainous caves, and just about any fortifiable position they could find. Down there is one of these locations, Lost Valley Redoubt. Let's head on down to get a better view of what life was like for a member of the Forsworn. With little contact between the isolated tribes, day-to-day life for a member of the Forsworn could differ somewhat. Some are nomadic hunters who move with their prey across the Reach. Others make homes in forts and caves amongst the hills. Some are incredibly hostile to outsiders, while others have shown a reluctant willingness to work with them, if it suits the clan's needs, of course. but they all seem to be unified by a rough set of traditions and culture that reveres the old ways of the Reachmen. Many modern civilized comforts and technologies are shunned in favor of basic, some might even say primitive clothing, tools and weaponry. Armor constructed from animal carcasses, homes of hide-covered tents, and weapons constructed from the bones of animals. And if this fellow down here using a gnawed skull to sharpen his axe is any sort of indication, it would appear our Forsworn friends even use the bodies of fallen foes to help them construct their weapons and tools. The diet of a Forsworn tends to consist of copious amounts of meat and whatever vegetables and crops can be grown in their unforgiving mountainous home. When they're in the mood to unwind and have some fun, the tribespeople of the Reach often enjoy a crisp mug of cider, as apples are one of the few crops suited for making alcoholic beverages in this rugged region. Traditional Reach folk culture values hard work, strength, and skill as highly valued attributes for a Reachman to possess, as is dancing, with the tribespeople being perceived as great dancers by those few outsiders to witness their ritualistic dancing. But for most outsiders, little is known about the intricate cultural and societal tapestry of the Forsworn. Their distrust of foreigners, use of their own Reach tongue language, and relying strictly on an oral record-keeping tradition has resulted in a lack of historical records, leaving the outside world with a mysterious and fearsome view of these tribes. Tales of barbaric monsters in the flesh of men who dwell in the mountains, slaughtering those who come across their territory. And this reputation is not unfounded. Forsworn justice is brutal and archaic. For example, the punishment for stealing from a fellow Forsworn member is the amputation of that individual's hand. Furthermore, slavery is also heavily practiced by the Forsworn, who abduct people from nearby villages to assist in running their settlements. But much of their brutality can be traced back to the rulers of these tribes. And while each clan typically has a chieftain or self-proclaimed king, they're not the true leaders of the Forsworn. To meet these mysterious matriarchal rulers, we're going to have to venture into the ancient tomb, known locally as Hag's End. Now this is just one of the many places that house the cruel and evil Hagravens, who rule over the Forsworn. These monstrous mistresses are believed to have once been witches, those who traded their humanity for strange and forbidden magic, transforming into a grotesque blend of an old crone and a raven. Few creatures can match the cunning, depravity, and ruthlessness of these Hagravens. Under their guidance, the Forsworn engage in equally depraved rituals and acts to appease their gods. But who are these gods? Well, each clan in the Reach does have its own unique religious and spiritual practices, following a pantheon of beings they refer to as the Old Gods. Depending on the tribe, these may be lesser nature spirits or the spirits of ancestors. However, most clans engage in some form of worship of certain Daedric princes, among them Markarth, the Lord of Ashen Bone, Namira the Spirit Queen, and chief amongst them Hircine, the Hunt Father. The Forsworn believe it was Hircine who gifted them their homeland of the Reach. Through his cruel lessons and harsh life he inflicts on the clans, he teaches the Reach folk to be strong and cunning, how to fight, hunt, and survive in their unforgiving homeland, surrounded by enemies on all sides. The Forsworn's reverence for Hircine is also evident in their dress, as they mimic his appearance with pelts of fur and great antlered helms. The rituals conducted by the Forsworn to honor and barter with their old gods reveal the tribes at their most brutal. They sacrifice men, women, and even children at the altars of these spirits, bathing in the blood of the sacrificed, and there are even accounts of them engaging in ritualistic cannibalism. These acts are often performed to gain access to a dark form of nature magic, known as Reach magic. But perhaps the most notorious of these acts of faith is the Briarheart ritual. In this ritual, the most skilled Reachmen warriors commune with Hircine to gain strength and power beyond that of mortal man, a ritual which dates back to the legendary Red Eagle the first of the Briarhearts who led a brutal war to unite the Reach tribes against a foreign empire. As part of the ceremony, a Hagraven removes the warrior's heart and fills the empty chest cavity with the engorged seed of a Briarheart tree. Through the hag's magic and Hircine's approval, the seed begins to beat, bringing new life into the warrior. Now isn't this a treat? It looks like we've stumbled across a Forsworn ambush. Ever since being driven back into hiding after the Markarth Incident, the Forsworn have become a real thorn in the side of the Imperial Legion, the Stormcloaks, regular travellers, and just about anyone in the Reach who isn't a natural Reachman. Imperial patrols and trade caravans live in fear when travelling through the Reach, dreading the appearance of the savage Forsworn warriors, shamans, and Briarhearts emerging from over the hill. Many are left baffled by the brutal and bizarre nature of these raids. No one except the rare kidnapped slave is left alive, and very little, if anything, is stolen from the caravans. The Forsworn aren't fighting for selfish greed or raiding supplies for their own survival. They battle with reckless abandon and little regard for their own lives, driven by the dream of seeing their homeland, the territory gifted to them by Hircine, free from the territorial ambitions of the Imperials and Nords. So underneath that brutal exterior and strange primitive culture, are they truly the bad guys? I mean, sure, they love a bit of harmless human sacrifice, but in a world of brutal civil wars, demonic entities, and vicious bands of raiders, are the Forsworn just the embodiment of a downtrodden people, pushed around and subjugated for too long? After all, unbeknownst to many, the Markarth Incident was far from a heroic act of liberation committed by the Nords. The relatively fair and just Forsworn kingdom was brought to a brutal end when Ulfric slaughtered the Reach folk of Markarth, executing those, even children, who disobeyed the Nords, and imprisoning anyone who had so much as talked to Madanach, the Forsworn king. The Nords then subjugated the people of the Reach as a lower class of individual, forcing them to work the toughest and most dangerous jobs in the Reach, while the Nord landowners only grew wealthier. So maybe it's time for Madanach to be freed, for him to rise up and unite a new Forsworn kingdom, ready to reclaim their homeland, free from the influence of outsiders, allowing the young nation to play a wider role in the world of Tamriel. What do you think? Should the Forsworn be free to run the Reach, or are they just a bunch of savages? Would you even consider signing up with them? Make sure to leave us a comment to let us know your thoughts, and on behalf of our entire flight crew, we'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with Lore Tours today. If you enjoyed this trip, make sure to subscribe to become one of our frequent flyers. And with that, our expedition comes to a close, but the voyage of discovery never truly ends. Keep your eyes on the stars and your heart ready for adventure. We'll be waiting to welcome you aboard for another journey soon. Until then, travelers, stay curious and safe travels. Catch you next time.